Con Stathopoulos and Josh Phegan come together in an incredible podcast, Grow, Scale, Master.
An energetic approach to drive progress, master skills, build strengths and put the strategy back into rapid business and personal success.
Backed by real-world experience in rapid scaling to playing the long-term game of business, it's the story of all the lessons learned on the journey to mastery.
Be inspired, renew your energy and chase the future with Grow, Scale, Master.
The big reset, the future is what we make it. Con, I remember the great Tom Peters speech, don't rebuild, reimagine.
Yes.
And there they were, literally, at the site of 9/11 after it had happened. They're about 6 months, a year down the track, and they're thinking, what do we do here?
Yep.
And that was the front page headline on the New York Times. And that has never left me where I go to think about that. Don't rebuild what you have, reimagine. And so when you start thinking about that, okay, great, let's go through as we kind of think about if the future is what we make it. How do you rate this year? So let's get some provocative questions.
Okay.
And when people say, how do you rate this year? Well, in what way? How do you rate the year in terms of income, production, ease of business, quality of life, health, relationships, all that stuff, right?
Yeah, totally agree. Is this our counselling session?
Oh, no, it's not.
I think we might be going there.
No, but that's...
how do you rate this year? It depends on what was the
what the measure is.
Yeah, but what was also the most important thing that you wanted to achieve this year? So for me, it was the ability to be able to scale our business by enabling. We had 30% growth in the last 12 months. We've actually had 30% growth year on year for the last 4 years.
Yeah.
That's exponential growth, but that also becomes very complicated when you've got key people that are basically carrying that load in the business, right? So for us, how would I rate this year personally in our business? If I had to give it a mark out of 10, I'd probably give it a 6 or a 7. Why? We had a great financial year. We had a great profit year. We had a great market share year. But I think there's so many gaps for us to improve on that it could have been better. Now, I'm not being a harsh critic. I'm just saying if I had to measure it that way. But if I look at it on another measurement, were our people happier? Were they healthier? Did people earn more money? The answer is yes. I'd give that an 8 out of 10. So I think it depends on how you measure and what you measure and what's really important for you to measure.
The lesson for me is that literally, how do you rate this year? Well, you got to be careful you're not too emotional.
Yes.
And there's the great old school, Steve Jobs quote, like, how do you know when you should get out of something? When you keep on waking up morning after morning and saying, hey, this is not for me.
Yeah.
But never make a decision on your best day and never make a decision on your worst day.
Yep.
Just make a decision on a good day. And I think that this is kind of an interesting thing is that, if it wasn't your best year, what would you need to do to make it so?
Yeah.
So I have a look at like maybe some of the areas, and this is like the foundational conversation of Stutz, in his documentary, that foundations are, okay, great, if I got great relationships, am I in a position that I've got meaningful work?
Yes.
Am I feeling healthy? And am I in a position I've got some basic financial stability? And if any of those is out of kilter, good luck.
Yeah.
Because I don't think anything's going to be great if you don't have meaningful work, if you don't love doing what you're going to do
have no
for
relationships.
40 hours or no relationships.
Correct.
Or
no cash.
Or poor health.
Yeah.
And so
exactly
so you got to spend time on getting that right. So the best year for you is also going to change, because here's the interesting thing, that as you get older, bodies change and you shift. And so you might have been massive into CrossFit and now you might have to be massively into yoga. But this is
You're reading my brain.
I am, yeah. Thanks, Emily. But that basic idea is thinking that literally that different things are required, stretching,
You're
flexibility, mobility.
Correct.
As a part of that, right?
Yeah, absolutely. Totally right. And I think, was it your best year? You know what? I think for me, I'm always looking at how do we continuously improve, personally and professionally.
Yeah.
So I don't really rate them as, is that my best year? I rate it, was that the best effort that I put into that year? And I think that's a better measurement for me.
And this is kind of an interesting thing, because when you go and have a look at wealth, like I had a client ring me at the end of last week in a panic. Right. They'd been to a training thing, they'd seen something, and they were just like, oh my God, I feel so insignificant compared to all of these giants that were on stage. I just feel like I'm not making it in life. I've got a maximum of 10 more years left before I have to retire. Like, what am I going to do? I don't have enough money. I'm a no one. And I was just like, hang on a second. Like, you've got a beautiful family. You've got an amazing house.
They got their health?
Yeah, they've got great health. You're in a position, you've got great relationships.
They're blessed.
You're in a position that, like, literally, if I ever asked you 5 or 10 years ago, would you ever be in the position that you're in today, you would have said no.
Correct.
And then it reminded me of a great old school saying that the greatest challenge in life is to want what you already have.
Wow.
Right? So if you think a little bit about that, when you start to say about what's going to be a great year, hey, get really clear. So at a health level, these are the things that I would love to go and spend some time on. I want to lose a kilo. I want to gain a kilo. I want to get a little bit of more muscular strength. I want a bit more flexibility. I want to touch my toes.
Yeah.
Yeah, like whatever that might be. And if you start thinking, okay, great, on a wealth level, here's the key thing. A lot of the things that happen in wealth is about how people spend their money, what they do in terms of saving it. And sometimes it's just pure luck. Because if you have a look at it, I don't know, am I likely to go down the track of being one of the richest people in the world? Probably not. But literally, touch wood, but if I died today, how would I say the last 17 years have been phenomenal?
Yeah, exactly.
And so this is actually that ability to think about that there's an old school diagram, and what you can do is you can draw the sun, and we got to call this the literally this horizon.
Right.
And if you think about it, literally the sun's setting, and here you are as a little stick figure, and you're going to run as fast as you can because you want to try to touch the sun.
Yeah.
Now, as you keep on running towards the sun, what you realize is you don't get any closer.
Yeah.
Until you stop for a moment and then you look back and you see how far you've come.
Yeah.
So this is a great conversation and the ability to be able to use a little bit of anxiety in a good way to drive future progress, to drive a future self and a better you, but then also to being in a position to understand how grateful you are for what you've got. And when you go through a debilitating, health condition or something actually happens, mate, like the clients that I've worked through with that, the very small, tiny health hiccups I might have had over the years, but I can tell you literally what that can take away from you is unbelievable.
Absolutely.
And so realize that.
Yeah, totally agree with that. And I think a thought came to my mind about 2 years ago. I had a client, a very wealthy client, extremely wealthy client, and unfortunately someone in their family got very, very ill. And I remember having a cup of tea with him, and he said, I would give every dollar to make sure that person never got ill. Mm-hmm. And then it got me thinking, going, why do we do what we do what we do, and who are we doing it for? Mm-hmm. And I think this is the time of the year when we're looking at that reset, coming into that Christmas period and over that break, is what small changes will we make in our lives that's going to enable us to not repeat the year that we've just had.
There's an old school saying too that literally that someone who's unwell, the only wish they have in life is to get well.
Correct.
And yet the greatest disease of all time is the person who's seriously well but just unhappy with where they're at.
Yeah.
And so this is kind of an interesting thing that I'm trying to say to people, okay, what one thing would actually help you to get more wealth? Pay down your home loan.
Correct.
Put some money in an ETF.
Yes.
All of those key things, whatever it is that you're going to do, you got to make that decision to go there. If you think about the relationships, I think I'm at my worst when I'm thinking about myself, but I'm at my best when I'm thinking about how do I help others. And so this is a really important conversation that naturally, that's where the reward mechanism comes in. I love to see people go from zero to hero. I love to see people thrive.
Yes.
I love to see someone that everyone said couldn't do it. Do it.
Yeah.
And that's the most important conversation, is that literally you don't have to do a lot of transactions to be successful in my light. But you know what? You got to do what you're capable of doing and use your skills.
Yep.
And so I draw this diagram at the moment where I go, okay, great. So here are some things that are going to impact you. First of all, we've got what we're going to call life stages. So from cradle to the grave.
Yep.
Then we've got life events. Hopefully they're more positive, but sometimes you have a life event that you weren't expected happening. And sometimes that's a really, poor thing that's wrapped poorly, I should say, but it's actually a gift. And then the next thing after that is that then you've got business cycles. And then after that, then we've got market cycles. So if you think about that, all of those things are happening all at the same time. So where are you at in terms of your life stage? Where are you at in terms of a life event? What's going on in terms of the business's growth? Then what's actually going on in terms of the market and how you're adapting? And so the whole idea here is that literally maybe you've got to get better at forecasting. So if you're going down to the beach, the lifesaver says, here's the high tide, here's the low tide, here's the temperature of the water, and there are no sharks. And then you'll make the decision to swim.
Yes.
But yet when I come into your life and your business, I'm like, well, what's ahead today and what's ahead over the course of this year? Are you forecasting what's going to happen for this stage and age?
Yeah, good way to look at it,
and
actually.
I had a really good psychological conversation with myself where I said, okay, great, what I'm going to do is that I'm going to go and spend an hour with someone in every decade of life.
Right.
Now, what is someone 0 to 10 all about? Energy and what we're doing and go.
Learning, exploring and
curiosity,
touching and,
seeing that. And what's 10 to 20 all about?
Yeah.
Who am I going to become? And like, I've got to learn that. And I need that to be cool, you know? And what's 20 to 30 about? Like, where am I going? And what am I doing? And who are you hanging out with?
Yeah, what's my life all about?
And then that's 30.
Yeah, is it okay?
30's like kids then. And married and all that stuff. And what is that going to be? And geez, I need to have some financial security. And 40 to 50 is like,
what is this what it's really like? Is this what I signed up for?
And then 50 to 60 is, am I still relevant?
Yeah.
And then 60 to 70 is that,
hey, I still want to be relevant, but I think I'm now past that point.
And then 60 to 70 is like have I made impact?
Yeah.
And then 70 to 80 is, man, can I still, actually I can impart wisdom. I've learned a lot of things. And you find the delight in a rose and the smell of a coffee and a glass of wine, right? And then literally 80 to 90 is, wow, and 90 is, I can still walk.
Yeah, and what a gift.
And so this is actually that whole conversation about, giving people perception. So when you start to think about those things, what are the things you need to make changes on? If you really looked in the mirror, what have you been lying to yourself about? And ultimately, what are you kidding yourself on? So if you're kidding yourself, how do we actually get you into a much safer place? Good mentoring, great coaching, good people around you, around health, around wealth, around relationships, and think small changes. And one of the great things, and I think that he was one of the speakers at ARIC, I can't remember his name, but it was actually a whole book about being able to just edit your life and edit it frequently.
Yeah, right.
And so if you start to think about that, like write down the things that literally currently exist in your life that no longer serve you well.
Cut them out.
I just don't need that anymore.
Yeah.
And literally there's an old school saying, someone said to me the other day, the more toys you have, the more things you got to maintain. And I was like, oh, that's actually true.
Yeah,
So then you go, okay, great. So literally get crystal clear on the vision, understand literally where your strengths are that you should be leveraging right now, and then actually understand, hey, what are the strengths I've got to go and develop? And you do that, you'll have a different life.
Yeah, totally agree with that. And I think it's the right time of the year to not right now, but I think moving into that later part of, December, to be able to really reflect on what worked, what didn't, what do you need to start, stop and continue doing. But more importantly, what are you actually up for at a business level and at a personal level? And I think that, one of the problems I've had very early on in my career was I blended those two things into the one. So for me, what looked like, from a happiness perspective was I had that promotion or I achieved that business goal, which would then make my personal life better.
Yeah.
But they're two very different things.
Yeah, spot on.
Yeah.
Experiences that rapidly shaped you.
So, Con, this is amazing, and when you gain these insights, and I had read David Allen's book, Getting Things Done, and I was at that stage where, like, I was such an active learner that literally when I learned something new, my poor mates who were around me, I'd take them for a coffee, and then I'd give them the lecture that I'd just been through.
Josh Phegan's short notes.
But the interesting conversation is that literally David Allen hadn't had this diagram, and it was like, okay, great, so how do you get things done? So something's coming to your world. Can you do it in under 2 minutes? If you can, do it. If you can't do it in under 2 minutes, then literally it's got to be coming to a project. Does it have multiple steps to it? Then define what those steps are, and then literally then put it in the calendar on when that would actually get done. I say, okay, great. So is this a resource that you're going to need to file somewhere? Is this something that can be done in the next couple of minutes? Is this something that's going to be a project that needs to be done at a really specific time? And it literally got me to think about contextually, where am I right now? So, okay, great, I'm at home. Okay, great, I can write a proposal. Where am I right now? I'm in a car. Well, I can't write a proposal while I'm in a car.
Yeah.
But I can do it when I'm at home or when I'm at the office. But what I can do whilst I'm in the car using my Bluetooth is I can make a call and speak to Con.
Yes.
Okay, great. So that's interesting. Now I'm at an airport. I'm literally collecting my luggage. I can respond to an SMS whilst I'm waiting for my luggage to come out.
Yes.
But I can also make a call.
Yeah.
As well. I mean, that whole idea. So literally, this is the great set of questions that come with that, where you start saying, okay, cool, where am I right now? What do I have with me? So what tools are available? What do I feel like doing? So that's interesting. And then what can I do? And I have this very simple philosophy that I learned that when I work, and when I'm at home, I'm at home. And the basic idea is that literally when my car leaves the garage in the morning,
you're in work mode.
Until my car comes back in the late afternoon, I'm either doing one of two things. I'm either in front of the customer or I'm making phone calls.
Yep.
And I just want you to think about that as being a really basic foundational principle for business success.
Yeah, I think that's really important. And I think that actually leads into one thing. As I'm becoming older, Josh, I'm in my
Let's just say 40s.
Okay, yeah, I'm in my 40s.
Yeah.
But the greatest gift that we've got is actually time. And I know that sounds so obvious, but think about the time. So my kids now, my daughter just turned 20 and my son's 16 and a half. You know, spending time with them for me, with my wife, Emily, and then my little beautiful Franklin, my little puppy dog, you know, that is the greatest gift that I've got, is that ability to actually have undisturbed, focused time with them. But conversely, it's also speaking to that first home buyer that's walked through, that you can see is nervous as hell, registering to bid, having no idea what they're doing, is actually spending that extra 3 or 4 minutes with them before they actually raise their hand to make a life-changing decision. It's the ability to be able to use that time really effective.
Something that's changing your view.
Con, I just thought about this little concept of thinking, how do I give myself that ability to think differently? And someone once asked me, in the course of a day, how much of your time do you spend thinking about the past? How much of your time do you spend thinking about the moment that you're in? And how much time do you spend thinking about the future?
Yeah, right.
And because if you're always in the past, you might be stuck in old ways.
Yes.
If you're always in the now, you might have no eye to the future.
Yes.
And if you're always stuck in the future, you're always in anxiety and you never have the ability to enjoy the moment. So the great thing is the ability to understand which zone that you're in and being there very deliberately by choice. Nostalgia's beautiful.
Yeah.
Being in the moment right now and really enjoying that crunchy toast with the warm honey in the morning in winter. It's amazing, literally. But also too, being in the future and thinking about what you could go to create. So I thought, okay, Viktor Frankl's A Man's Search for Meaning. I'm going to take the concept and how do I break it down? So now what I do on the daily, I'm going to write down 3 things that I'm grateful for. So what am I grateful for today? Really good friendship with Con and Em.
Yeah.
What else am I grateful for? Kylie in our business is amazing. What else are we grateful for? We've got some amazing team members in Jess and Jessica and Rachel inside of the business. Okay, great. What are 3 things I'm looking forward to right now? I'm really looking forward to our next bit of work that we're doing with House & House in Dubai. It's an exceptional business. It's going to be great. What else am I looking forward to? Man, I'm going to get out on the mountain bike. Can't wait to go and do that. What else am I looking forward to? At the end of the year, we've got a motorbike ride set up with a couple of my mates, and that's a really cool thing that we do every year. Okay, great. Then I go I say, what one big thing is on the horizon right now? Oh, we're doing some really cool stuff on a major project inside of the business, which is really exciting. But what also is big on the horizon, a bit more time with mum and dad. I'm really looking forward to that. Okay, great. And then I go and I have like this list of things that I could actually choose to do for exercise. So my list, I've got like 5 of them. I could go for a run. I could do some stretching. I could do some body weight stuff. I could go and have a sauna. I could be in a position that literally I could do some breathing stuff. Yep. Okay, great. So I just choose at least 2 out of those 5. And then I go and have a look at my nutrition list. And I say, okay, great. Vitamin C, vital greens, making sure I've got my 7 hours worth of sleep, 3 litres of water, making sure I've got really good quality meals throughout the course of the day. And here's what I found. Do that every day. Refer to that more frequently throughout the course of the day. You'll have a great life.
Love it.